Well, once again, the media's double standard is visible for everybody to see today. All over the finding more body parts, and they made arrests in that situation that happened in Babylon, and we all know, and it's very interesting as you're going to see, they found stuff in Bethpage, but they never actually sent the report to Bethpage. Only Babylon and West Babylon were the only locations for this. So, and yeah, it's gruesome. I understand that, but I mean, literally, they're here 3 minutes and 5 seconds, and then another 1 minute and 34. Babylon community relieved by arrest in case of humans remains found, but questions remain. Meanwhile, if we go over here and look at crime, you'll see here that they barely covered this. Somebody was murdered in Hempstead, and it only got 24 seconds. So, see, this is exactly what I mean. So if somebody's murdered and it's in an enclave or whatever, it'll get covered. But in Hempstead, they don't care. I mean, this is disgraceful. You really should be ashamed of yourselves, News 12. Really shows who you serve. So let's go ahead and play this.
New information into our newsroom after a man was found dead in Hempstead. Police tell us a 17-year-old is under arrest and facing second-degree murder charges.
They barely covered this.
61-year-old Adil Umenzor Martinez was found inside of a home on Maryland Avenue last week with blunt force trauma to his head. The teen, whose name is not being released by police because he is a minor, will face a judge later today.
So, again, barely covered. And then the story, the original story, only 22 seconds. Man found with this. So apparently, this goes to show you what I'm talking about. Violence in the middle of the island, and particularly communities of color, is just brushed aside. But when it happens to the preppy white people in their enclaves, stop the presses. I mean, this is such racism. It's such blatant racism going on. It really is. It really is. So we're going to play the other stories here, and you'll see they were barely in Bethpage. I mean, it's just all about the South Shore. Always is with them. Always.
Breaking right now on News 12, more human remains found in both Nassau and Suffolk County this time. We've just learned that body parts were found in a wooded area across from Lakeway Drive in West Babylon. This comes after confirming that human remains were also found in Bethpage State Park.
Yeah, they never sent a reporter to Bethpage, though. Very interesting, right? It's so obvious. It really is.
They're linking them to last week's discovery at Southard's Pond Park in Babylon. Sources are telling us multiple arrests have been made. Crime reporter Krista McNally is in West Babylon. She kicks off our team coverage
West
tonight
Babylon.
Right now.
Why aren't you in Bethpage? I guess the people in Bethpage don't matter, right?
Now with more. Krista, good
It's
evening.
so obvious. So obvious what's going on here.
Several updates this evening on the Babylon body parts investigation. Our sources confirming multiple people have been arrested in connection with these crimes.
So they have been
and
arrests
learning
made.
more about the victims this evening. According to police, the victims are a 59-year-old woman and a 53-year-old man. Their names are not being released at this time. Police are saying those two people had their body parts scattered in several different locations, 3 locations, both in Nassau and Suffolk counties, including here in a wooded area in West Babylon.
But you never bothered to go to Bethpage. Why?
On Lakeway Drive.
You know, the Bethpage Park gets a lot of people walking on their trail, too, but I guess I know. It's the middle of the island. It's not as important, right?
That is where human remains were found earlier today, as well as Bethpage State Park, according to police. Now, as News 12 has reported, last Thursday, a man's arms and a woman's head, leg, and arm were discovered at Southard's Pond Park in Babylon.
Of course,
again,
you've been all
these
over
are
that.
to be parts of the same 2 people scattered in 3 different wooded areas on Long Island, and the identities of the victims are being withheld at this time. What we do know is their last known address was together in Yonkers. However, we do not know the last time they lived at that location. Joe?
All right, now, Krista, earlier in the day you were in Amityville. How did that location play into the search?
Well, police tell us a search warrant was executed in Amityville last night and no human remains were found there. Our sources are telling us those arrests were made after the investigation at 25 Railroad Avenue. And we did see investigators there this morning. We saw them coming in and out with evidence bags. Crime scene was on scene as well this morning. There were several trucks there.
You know damn well if this dumping, they dumped these bodies in all the middle of the island. If it was just the middle of the island, they wouldn't be covering it like this. It would be getting a passing mention. But because it happened in Babylon, oh boy, that's important.
There was a lot of movement in that Amityville location on Railroad Avenue. We spoke with someone who lives on Railroad Avenue, who coincidentally, his parents live right near Southard's Pond in Babylon, where body parts were found last Thursday. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I was there. We were just eating breakfast, and then it came over, you know, like through social media, like everyone else finds their news now. And then we put on News 12 to see like updates. It's kind of blowing my mind.
Many people just stunned to find out more human remains were found of these two people.
So, yeah, and they're all over it. I mean, that's not the first story they covered because they have a whole page here of everything they found. So they never sent a reporter to Bethpage. West Babylon gets a reporter, Southern's Pond gets a reporter. But nobody, they're not speaking to anyone in Bethpage. I mean, it's so obvious. This is just so obvious what's going on. And that wasn't the only story. Again, Babylon community relieved. Again, they're relieved. They get to be safe. Well, everybody in the middle of the island just is told to that they're worthless and they don't count.
And our John Dowding has been speaking with people throughout the afternoon. John, what are people telling you where you are?
And he's at Southern's Pond. They never sent a reporter to Bethpage. Disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, hey, good evening to you, Krista. I mean, look, the news of potential arrests, as our sources have confirmed to us here at News 12, has many people feeling at ease here in Babylon.
Of course,
especially
you can
since
be at
it's
ease
been
in your
less
little
than
enclave.
a week since those gruesome discoveries were made right here at Southern's Pond Park.
It's great. That means our police department's at work.
We're one step
these
closer
people
to
get to be
answers
safe while
tonight
everybody
after
in the middle
learning
of the
new
island gets
details
to-
into the
gets to deal with all the
investigation to find out
problems.
who placed human remains at Southern's Pond Park.
It's close to home and, you know, a little scary.
Sources confirmed to News 12 several arrests have been made in the case. Some we spoke to echoed what we heard from Suffolk County Executive
Look at
Ed
all the time they're
Romaine last
spending on
night,
this, like
that
almost
they
5
believe
minutes.
the crime wasn't committed.
Meanwhile, they've dumped bodies in Edgewood Preserve and Deer Park, in the Pine Barrens there, in Brentwood and Central Islip, and it never gets this amount of coverage. It never gets this amount of coverage. Because, again, it's all about the white people. Why is Long Island such a freaking racist place to live?
In the park.
It's more racist now than it was years ago.
I believe the crime was not done here. It was done somewhere else, and the body was just dropped in the wooded areas. I understand they found more in Bethpage also.
Suffolk police announced the discovery of more human remains found in a wooded area of West Babylon and at Bethpage State Park. They also announced the potential
They never send a reporter to Bethpage State Park.
Hopefully, you know, we'll have some answers, what it was, who it was, why. That's what I'm waiting to hear.
And we're also waiting to learn more details and more answers from Suffolk police. And we're
Why don't you get your butt down to Bethpage and do a report there? There are a lot of people that jog on that bike path, mister.
going to learn more details on our own as well.
I would love to be there, just like heckle them, you know, right when they're doing that, and let them know how I feel.
Be sure to keep you guys updated on air and online with the very
Why aren't
latest
you in
as we learn
Bethpage?
more.
Why aren't you in Bethpage? I mean, really? No, it's just Babylon that deserves to be safe, right? Just Babylon, right? Just because, right? Let's see. I'm going to look up Bethpage State Park, and we're going to see if any other media outlets. Let's see. Maybe some of the other. See, it's not just News 12, though. I mean, I blame them, but they all do this. Yeah, again, Christina Chaffin is live in West Babylon. Why isn't anyone in Bethpage?
Human remains discovered in a park. Good evening at 5 o'clock. I'm Sandra Bookman in for Sade.
And I'm Bill Ritter. The grisly discoveries we know began last Thursday when a group of students walking to school found a severed arm remains, including a woman's head.
And it didn't end there. Authorities found more bodies. The discovery came after cops raided a home in Amityville. They spent the entire night there before taking.
Reporter Shantae Lands live in West Babylon with the
West
breaking
Babylon
news
again.
Shantae.
Why don't you ever send a reporter to Bethpage? No, it's always.
Bethpage State Park and
at least
in
they have
these
some
woods
video.
along Lakeway Drive in West Babylon.
Shocking, though.
Very, very shocking.
I believe there was a police car stopped right up front over here early this morning.
Now 3 locations of human remains belonging to the same man and woman scattered across Suffolk County, originally discovered in Southard's Palm Park in Babylon by a high school student last arriving on scene to...
And the whole road was blocked off, mobile centers.
Questioning.
Well, they don't interview anyone in
Bethpage.
Bethpage.
Where the 2 people were taken into custody.
That's the South Shore. It's the pretty little Babylon branch there.
And again, the victims.
I mean, it's not just
both
News
a
12.
man and
It's all part of the big plan here. Let's go to NBC. Probably the same thing here. Now they're saying it might be a possible love triangle. So it might not even be MS-13 after all. It might be a love triangle.
We're here through this morning.
It started as a raid. It was a SWAT.
Didn't want his fate into the discovery of human remains.
They're not in Bethpage either. Nobody went to Bethpage.
Here to custody.
Nobody went to Bethpage to cover
The
this.
apartment found no remains today in Bethpage State Park and in a wooded area in West Babylon. Those remains.
No one went to Bethpage.
And a 53-year-old
I'm furious.
man, both from Yonkers.
Yeah, it's intense.
No, you're just interviewing people because those white people on the South Shore are somehow more important than everybody else. It's like, what the hell? I mean, it's so obvious what's going on here. It's so obvious. You look at the map, it's just the whole middle of the island just doesn't count. And it's all part of the plan to drive us out. Ignore the middle of the island, dump the problems there, and if they happen, and if the South Shore gets hurt, gets taken care of, if something goes wrong, you're going to hear about it, but if it happens in the middle of the island, no, we don't care. We don't care. And that area in West Babylon is by Belmont Lake State Park. I know that area, all right? All right, sort of on the edge of the enclave there, all right? I mean, you know, just because. It's like just because. It's like this whole area just doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter at all. Nope, doesn't matter. Nope, this whole area just doesn't matter. Nope. It's all about these people on the South Shore. They're the only ones that matter. Yep, it's just the coveted enclave. You got to get in here. If you're not in here, you're worthless, man. But it's an expensive area, and they only allow a certain demographic to live there. And that's how the plan works. The rest of us get forced out and told to shut up and live elsewhere. Really. It's just unbelievable. It's an outrage. It really is. You think I'm going to be quiet about this? I'm not going to be quiet about this. It's ridiculous. It really is. And here's another crime they barely covered. Freeport man pleads guilty to charges connected to 22 DWI crash. This happened in New Hyde Park. Of course, gets a passing mention because it happened in New Hyde Park. Who cares, right? I mean, it's so obvious what's going on. It's all about the South Shore. There's only one part of Long Island that matters, folks. I'm going to put the green. I'm going to put the green right here for you to see. It's all about this area here. It's all about this area and this area, and that's it. That's it. It's all about that. And if you're not in this area here, well, you just don't count. You just don't exist. You might as well not exist, you know. Because it's all about this area. It's all about this. This is where your Wall Street people are, your white finance professionals. They're in their own little enclave that the rest of us are not allowed to live in, and that's how they drive us out. It's all part of the plan, as I said a million times before. I'm not going to be quiet about it. It's not just News 12. You can blame News 12, but you know what? They're just reacting to bigger forces at play here. You know, and the forces at play are that the middle of the island is being ruined because it's an area where people of color live, and the South Shore is always taken care of because it has the highest density of white people who work in finance. That's what's going on, folks. You know, if you can keep denying it all you want, these are facts.